Hi, I'm Tyson Franklin, and welcome to this week's episode of the Podiatry Legends podcast. The podcast is designed to help you feel, see, and think differently about the podiatry profession. Now, before I introduce my amazing guest today, just want to remind everyone, or let everybody know, that I am doing a 2-day workshop with Jonathan Small in Brisbane on the 21st and 22nd of July. It's based on Jonathan's Work Smarter, Not Harder workshop. So all the details are on my website. Just go to tysonfranklin.com. And you'll see all the information there and what we're going to cover over the 2-day period. It's going to be a lot of fun. So my guest today is Kade Anderson. And Kade is born and bred on the New South Wales Central Coast. If you've never been to that part of the world before, it is absolutely beautiful. He graduated from the University of Newcastle in 2020. But prior to becoming a podiatrist, he had a career in real estate and also pathology. So Kade, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing today?
Yeah, good, Tyson. How are you, mate?
I'm good, and so glad to get through that long intro for this podcast. First take doesn't happen all the time.
No, the big long intro.
Yeah. Sometimes I bugger it up.
You didn't read the whole thing.
What's that?
You didn't read the whole thing.
No, I've got notes down in front of me and make sure I actually touched on a few points. But I can't sit there and just read it because I bugger things up.
Yeah, no, that's right. I have the same issue.
So, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm not too bad, thanks. Not bad at all.
Okay, so you had a career in real estate and pathology before podiatry. Now, what's interesting, why did you change? What made you change and decide to become a podiatrist?
Yeah, I get asked this a lot. So I was in real estate straight out of high school. I was young, dumb, and didn't have the focus to go straight to university at the age of 18. I had a couple of friends in real estate at the time. I thought, I want to wear nice clothes and drive nice cars.
How does an 18-year-old do real estate? Like, how does somebody look at you and go, what's this kid know about the market?
Oh, so you can talk the talk.
Okay.
I was always under someone else. So I worked with some pretty dominant officers in the area. I was never out on my own. I was more under the wing of a leader and doing their footwork and stuff like that. Did it for a number of years, but then as I got older and matured, I realised it probably wasn't a long-term plan for me. I've just worked with a few people that I didn't want to see myself as, in 30 years' time.
Yeah.
And as I settled down and grew up, I thought, I probably want to go and get a bit of a tertiary education and go down that path. Coming from a family which are all, tertiary qualified and things like that. So I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I did the bridging program to get into university.
Okay.
Yep, at the Newcastle. And at that time, I thought, I might do nursing. And my dad's a registered nurse. And he said, I know you. I'm a registered nurse. Not a match. And I said, okay, that's a bummer. And I had a good mate of mine from school that was doing podiatry at the same campus.
Yeah. Did he say why you weren't a match for nursing?
He just actually did say, he said, while he gave my brothers and I a really good life at private schools, nice home, holidays, stuff like that, he had to work really hard for that, harder than what you would in other fields. So he was working Christmas Day, New Year's Eve, public holidays to give us that life. And he said, I think you could earn more money doing something else, that kind of thing.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense then.
And I wouldn't cope with the shift work and things like that. So I think he's probably right. So, so I had that in my mind. Had a friend called Jay that was doing university at the same campus in podiatry, and had a chat to him. He's like, get amongst it. This is what we do, and we're showing me things, and we're showing me photos of wounds and what the podiatry do, and his toe props and his gadgets and stuff. And I was like, oh yeah, that's all right.
Was that Jay Lewis?
Yes.
I know Jay. Jay's been on the podcast.
Has he? I'll have to find that.
His episode is way over 1,000 downloads. It's done really, really well because it was about I think we were talking about the transition from wanting to be a professional football player in the AFL and then becoming a podiatrist. So yeah, that was a really popular episode.
Yeah, so Jay could sell ice to the Eskimos. So he was advocating for podiatry when I was still going, I don't know what I want to do. So basically did that, and I thought it was a bit of a lofty, because back then the ATAR was quite high.
Yeah.
has fallen since those days. So it was a bit of a lofty goal for me, but I did it and got in, and haven't looked back. Got in, struggled through a bit of theory in the first year, things like that. Subjects that are that really thick and dense.
Yeah.
Material that I have never looked at as a podiatrist, but that's just the program.
How old were you when you graduated?
How old was I? Goodness me. I'm 30 now, so it would have been 28.
Okay.
Yeah. But I did dabble. I did part-time, so I did a bit of travelling in the second year and things like that. Met my wife, and had a few other things going on at the time, but we got through.
Did you meet your wife at university?
I met my wife on Tinder, and then she studied at the same university, which was great.
Okay.
Yeah, so she did oral health therapy at the same uni. Oral health therapy, so dental hygienist kind of thing.
All right, okay.
So we got to have a bit of overlap there with our programs as well, which was good. But no, I didn't meet her at the uni. And she likes to tell everyone we did, but I'm more honest. So no, we both.
Yeah, she's probably don't tell people that's where we met.
Yeah, it was love at first sight.
Oh no.
So I did that, and then I was at uni, and then I obviously needed to drop out of real estate to find a job that was a bit more tailored around uni.
Yeah.
I had another friend of mine that was working in pathology locally, and they said, look, in the uni break, you can go and do this 3-month paid course through the pathology provider, which will do all your training. That'll wrap up when uni goes back, and then you can go in the casual pool.
Okay.
So sign me up. So at the end of my first year, uni wrapped up, I went and did this pathology course, which was just a certificate in phlebotomy and taking blood. That finished, uni went back, and I was in the casual pool, which was great. It gave me experience to work with patients, work alongside doctors. I was going in, taking blood off women that were in between contractions, going into operating theatres. It was a really, really good uni job. And like I said, it gave you that foundation of, sticking needles in people's arms.
Yeah, I was going to say that's, to get a needle and actually put it into somebody, it's the first time you ever do it. It's a weird sort of feeling. I actually really enjoy that crunch that you feel as you're putting it through the layers. It feels so good.
Well, I remember local anaesthetic day at uni when everyone's passing out like flies. I was in my element. Who wants a needle?
I'll be perfectly honest. If I had known we had to give each other injections and we were practicing on each other, I would be an optometrist today.
Oh, would you?
Yeah, because I was tossing up between med lab science, optometry, podiatry, which way I wanted to go. And then I realized I wanted to work for myself. And then I couldn't see myself sitting in a dark room just going, is that better? Or is that better? First one or the second one? So podiatry was far more interesting. But I did not know that we did injections. If I had known that, because when we started, I said, so what are we practicing on? They went, each other. I'd be kidding. So, but anyway, after 4 people held me down, the first one was fine.
Yeah, it's a day burnt in my mind, that's for sure.
I remember one of the students once putting the needle, I think it was during the exam, put the needle in my toe, and as she's injecting, putting in the anesthetic, I'm looking at my toe and I can see the anesthetic shooting out of the bottom of my toe onto the lecturer's trousers.
Yeah,
because he had gone right through and actually did it. Yeah. And I just thinking that doesn't look right.
Yeah, I spent the next fortnight in a thong. I couldn't wear my appearance in my toe.
Yes, I know. Yeah, I think I still have a slight numb area on one of my big toes. It just never came back. But anyway, so keep going on. So you did that.
Yeah.
How did you find the course? Because you started, because I know there's a few people that struggle those first 2 years of doing podiatry, especially when they've had a break from study and then getting back into it.
Yeah, look, I was ignorant to the assumed knowledge, which my brother drew my attention to. So I didn't even look at that and just enrolled in it and went and hit the ground running. And then when it got to, anatomy, physiology and things like that, I'm going, what the hell is a cell? And, what is a sodium ion channel?
Yeah.
My brother's, didn't you read the assumed knowledge? And I said, no.
Assumed knowledge.
Yeah. What's assumed knowledge?
Never assume.
Yeah. So I actually had to engage a tutor And then as a student, that was difficult because I had to pay her $50 an hour to sit there with me and go through things, but we got through it.
Yeah.
And I was actually quite old for my cohort. So I was mid-20s at the time. And for my cohort, everyone was straight out of high school. So they weren't in the same situation I was in. They'd just done U12 science the year before, and this was essentially what we were doing. And I'm there in my mid-20s going, I haven't looked at a textbook in 7 years.
Yeah, it's interesting you should say that. My daughter's doing pharmacy at the moment. So just gone straight from high school into pharmacy. And at the moment, they're doing a couple of chemistry subjects. And she actually even said, I'm so glad that like she did chemistry last year. And then during the holiday break, she knew chemistry was going to be part of pharmacy. So she just kept reviewing her notes before she actually got to uni so that it was all fresh in her mind. And she said, if I'd had a gap year, just I would hate the thought of coming back and having to learn this. So congratulations on you to get through it.
Oh, yeah, I had a gap 7 years.
Yeah.
But we got through it. And then, so we got through uni, was working as a pathology collector at the local private hospital on weekends and, you know, on the days I wasn't at uni and stuff like that. Wrapped up with uni and went on a holiday with my wife now, who's my wife now, she was my fiance at the time, up to Byron Bay in the Gold Coast on a road trip. And I packed my suit in the car and had all these interviews lined up, and it was back in COVID. So still doing interviews over Zoom and things like that. So, you know, a few afternoons in the fortnight, I'd have to go back to the motel room, put my suit on, do my hair and do my new grad interview. And by the end of these interviews twice, and I thought, you know what, I don't want to work for this person. You know, and this happened.
Yeah.
And I thought, I don't know if it's because maybe I'm a prick or they're a prick or my expectations are not.
Could be a bit of both.
Yeah. Or if my expectations are unreasonable. Anyway, it was because and it came down to the figures and what these people were offering. And I thought, well, I've got a Cert 3 in pathology and I actually earn more than that taking blood out of people's arms at the hospital around the corner.
Yeah.
But you want to pay me less to drive to Sydney to use my degree to things like that. And it just wasn't working out. And the thing that bugged me the most was I thought, you know, you want to bill me out to the tune of $200 an hour to your patients, but you want to give me 30.
Yeah.
And then you also say, give me the elusive promise of, well, we'll give you training and mentorship and things like that. But where are you? You're not going to be there. I'm going to be out in a clinic somewhere with no receptionist, taking payment, booking the next appointment, doing the review start to finish for $30 an hour.
Yeah.
And this was what I would unpack in the interview, and you'd figure out by the end of the meeting it wasn't a match.
It's quite interesting you to say that. I did a webinar a couple of weeks ago about how to attract and retain podiatry talent. And there's a lot of podiatrists at the moment who are throwing the hands up the air saying, oh, it's so hard to find a podiatrist these days. We can't find anybody. There's a shortage. The students are wanting too much and they're complaining about a lot of things. So I've done this webinar twice now. First time I had 46 people register. The second time I had 30 people register. Now there's thousands of podiatrists out there between the UK, America and Australia. I put it on at a time that would be able to suit most people. Yet doing it twice, I've had under 100 people actually register for the webinar. Those that have watched it have just said, holy crap, that was so good. Changed the way of how I approach attracting and retaining. Yet the people who are, I know there were some people who are complaining a lot about not being able to get staff, just weren't there.
So that's
crazy.
That fractured business model I just explained to you, which I could really sort through the shit from the clay in the meeting.
Well, that's what I said in the webinar was, you're putting these ads out. Then I showed some demo ads and I said, stupid people can see through what you're writing. Everything you're writing, and this is what they're seeing. And that's what you are actually saying right now, that you can pick through all the bullshit.
Yeah, and like I said, and I had a couple of friends that were also a bit older than me, not too much older, and in the years in front of me. So I was quite a social butterfly, and I had friends in all years. So they'd also say, "Watch out for this red flag," things like that, and I could sniff it a mile away.
Yeah.
So I actually stumbled upon a job in aged care. It was on a website that I don't usually look at marketing a position. And I thought, okay, look, that's got an attractive base pay. It's local. It's not full-time, so I'm not investing heaps into it. So I can go and do that for a couple of days a week, get a feel for it, get some podiatry experience on the CV.
Yeah.
And go from there.
And you also need that. You do need, sometimes you need to work somewhere to get some experience.
Yeah, yeah. And I also thought I can stay I was working at Levin, which was the pathology company. I think they're called Doveridge up your way. Have you heard of them?
No.
So it's like Douglas Hanley Moyer, like a big one. Anyway,
Okay.
so I stayed in the casual pool at the hospital, picked up the 2 days a week in this aged care job, and loved it. Had the meeting, had 2 meetings online with the management from the big company. They were great. Best meetings I'd had to date, and I'd had quite a few. They'd address the elephants in the room without me having to address them. Work-life balance, remuneration, expectation.
Prior to that, can I just go back a step? How many employers did you go to for job interviews and talk to that you said no to?
Half a dozen.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think I've got a pretty good CV, and as you can see, I'm a pretty good communicator.
Yeah.
So I had no issue getting in the door for a meeting, and then it was in the meeting where I could unpack that. So I'd had a couple, and like I said, living on the Central Coast, it's an hour to Sydney, it's an hour to Newcastle. So I threw my net out in both directions, and that was how I got the 6 interviews or whatever. So jumping back to that, got the position in the aged care, had dabbled in it. I thought, I don't know if I like this. Everyone hates it. This is horrible work. This is apparently what everyone said.
Yeah.
But I loved it. And I nagged them. I said, put me on full time, put me on full time, put me on full time. And they said, yeah, when we've got the capacity, we will. And they did. So it took 6 months for that company to be in a position to put me on full time. And they did. That was 18 months ago. Threw in the pathology job.
Yeah.
I have thrived, Tyson. I've got a support network. The work-life balance is second to none. And then I couldn't think of anything worse than a private practice at the moment.
All these private practice owners are listening to this now have just gone, don't, Tyson, why did you put this episode out? We don't want to hear that. But I think there's a couple of important things that you said there. One, you found an area of podiatry that you enjoy. And like you said, sometimes people bag that part of podiatry where it's like, oh, no, you don't want to work in aged care, or it's boring, it's brain numbing, but you're actually enjoying it.
Yeah, and the thing is, we see a range of things. So why people think, you've got to pack up your tools, you've got to go and see 30 a day, and all you do is cut toenails.
Yeah.
Wrong.
Okay, tell us what really happens.
It's everywhere. We get to debride wounds, we get to flush out ulcers, we get to work with GPs.
That just you already put me off. That's that's just me.
The GP will crash tack you in the hallway and go, come and have a look at the person's foot and tell me what you think. And then you go in there and you've got the GP next to you, the patient's in front of you, and you're working collaboratively with a doctor for this client's outcome. There's not many other settings where you have the GP right next to you doing that and an RN on the other side. Yeah. Working together about, what do you think this is? How do we fix this? Or this person's, come in for respite. Look at this foot. Things like that.
How many patients are you seeing per day?
How many?
With this company? Yeah.
Yeah. Look, anywhere between 20 and 30.
Okay.
Which, like I said, repels people. However, we see them every 6 weeks. So their feet are in pretty good nick. So if you're going through and seeing someone every 6 weeks, they're not out in the community, they're walking around nursing home in slippers, or they're sitting in their chair all day. Their feet are pretty good.
Yeah.
And the time that you don't spend with someone that doesn't need work, you have that time spare to spend with someone that does need the work. So you don't have to do a comprehensive review with everyone because they don't need it and they don't want it. But for the next person in the next room that does, you can. And also you get to hand that information directly over to an RN, who is the one that will be there seeing through the care until you're there next time.
Okay, so how many different aged care facilities do you work at? Is there over a big distance, or?
Yeah, I've got 8.
Okay.
Under my belt, and 5 of them are on the Central Coast. 3 of them are on the Mid-North Coast. So, I went there for cover for the company because there was no one available. And I said, hey, can I take that on permanently? Yes, it's 3.5 hours away.
Yeah.
But I like residents, I like the staff. I'll keep going there. So I actually travel up to the Mid-North Coast every few weeks for a week. And the company put me up in accommodation. You get extra allowances for being up there, and you're seeing your friends in the facility. It's great.
That's good. So it sounds like you found the area of podiatry that you enjoy and you're thriving on.
Yeah, exactly. And a day for me, so my wife, she works in a private practice doing the dental. And between 7:30 and 7:45 of the morning, you don't want to be in this house because she's throwing things in her handbag, throwing a bit of toast in her mouth, and running out the door and breaking the land speed record out of the street to get to work time. Whereas I'll sit there with my feet up with a coffee, going, "Oh, I'll go to work now." So because you got that flexibility of your work.
So it's all about getting the job done. It's not it's not locked in. Start at this time, finish at that time. It's just this is what you need to do. I worked 6 months in a hospital before moving to Cairns, and I used to turn up in the morning and they'd say, "Here's the patient list." I go, "Okay," and if I got there at 8:30, great. If I got there at 9:30, it didn't really matter. As long as I got through the patients that day, it was nice and simple. So it was a very casual job.
And that's this dynamic. So obviously you don't be silly with it. You don't get there at lunchtime because
and leave at 1:30.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, that doesn't happen. So so for me personally, I like to wait until they've had their breakfast. Because if you don't want to get to work too early because they've got to have their breakfast and they've got to be showered. So I'll get
to have your morning poo.
Exactly right, and and it's like clockwork. Everyone goes at the same time.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but there are other times where I might have something on that afternoon, and I think I've really got to be able to work at 3:00. So I'll get there at 7:30.
Yeah,
and that's you can't. I couldn't live without that at the moment. And it's like I said, I see my wife in a private practice setting where she's got a first patient in the chair at 8:10, and I know not to go near her after 7:30 in the morning because no matter how early she gets up, she's running late and she can't be late because then that ruins your whole day. I don't drift into that problem.
So do you think this will be the so you're full time with them now, and we won't mention how much they're paying you because you're on good money, so don't want to upset anyone. He's listening going, "Oh, he's getting paid more than me," but it's also like, be perfectly honest, what you do I couldn't do.
Yeah,
so it's going to suit certain people, but I could not do your job. I just couldn't do it. I'd be there. I'd be dry reaching. I'd be awful at it. So there's going to be certain people that what you're doing is going to just be absolutely perfect for them. And I think it's important to find the parts of podiatry you love doing and stick with it. Yeah.
And I did listen to another podcast. I think it was yesterday. I was driving home from Port Macquarie and I pop it on and I listened to it. And someone mentioned their remuneration. And that's one way to look at it, but it's not the case.
No.
Those figures are quite outdated. No one's charging that anymore to the nursing homes. But furthermore, I actually couldn't afford to go and work in a private practice now. I've, for what I'm earning now, and I work hard for that, and I do a good job. How you leave a person's foot is your business card.
Yeah.
You've got to have a bit of pride in you. And at the end of the day, the company won't hold on to you. And you answer to a team of clinical care managers, registered nurses, endorsed enrolled nurses, residents' relatives. You're accountable, so you can't go and do a bad job and get away with it.
Good point.
So you can't. You're copying it from every end. So you need to do a good job. But as far as the remuneration goes, I've got no grievances with my organisation, and it couldn't be matched at the moment with the market rate out there. So that coupled with working with a bunch of legends being paid. Why would I leave?
Yeah, no, it's true. But like I said, it's got to suit you, because if somebody said to me, like you told me off air what you get paid, if somebody said, Tyson, we'll give you double that to do that job, I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it.
Why is that?
I don't know. I have worked in nursing homes when I first graduated and did all that. But if somebody had an ulcer, I was like, keep it away from me.
But can you relate to any of the things I'm saying that are the good?
Oh, well, what you said when you first went and applied for a job, when I graduated, where I lived, there was a job going in my area. And I went, fantastic. I can still stay at home. I could get this job, which was, I could pretty much walk there. It was like a 3-minute drive. I applied for the job. I got the job. And I said, oh, out of curiosity, how much are you paying? Because I didn't bother asking, because I was just so excited about getting a job.
Yeah.
And when they told me my pay, I went, seriously? I said, is that what you're paying? They went, yeah. I went, oh, sorry, I can't take it. And she went, what do you mean you can't? I said, I can't take it. I said, I'm not being an arrogant prick, but I'm just saying that at the time, I think it worked out, it was like $14 an hour. That was what I would have been. This is going back in 1989. So you work out what the is now.
Yeah.
At the time, I was working at a chook farm killing chickens for $14.50 an hour.
Oh.
And I said, do you want me to take 50 cents an hour less? I said, and I have to have insurance, registration, all the responsibility.
Your
I said,
degree.
longer hours. I've gone to uni. I said, yeah, I can go to the chook farm and make more money. So it may sound bad, but I didn't take the job, and I went home, spoke to my mum, and said, this is what I'm thinking of doing. I said, I've looked at other jobs. They're all paying the same. I'm going to work for myself, but I'm going to work at the chook farm as well. So I used to work at the chook farm from 5 a.m. till 9.
Wow.
And then go from there, go and open up the clinic. And then, yeah, so that's sort of how I did it. And I kept the chook farm job for a long period of time.
Yeah, that's quite me with the lavity, isn't it?
Yeah, it's one of those things. So I totally get what you mean when you graduate and you're all excited, but then when you're looking at the jobs, you go, but I must admit, the job I was being offered back in the day, it was a pretty good job. It was a nice clinic. Yes, there was, say, a couple of nursing homes, but there wasn't traveling out and about to a number of places. So it was probably a quality job. It's just the pay was not very good, and that put me off.
Yeah, but that's why we get out of bed every day. Like, money's not everything, but
No, I agree. And in hindsight, I look back now, and this is the advice I give to people. And this is gonna it's gonna contradict some of what we're talking about. I wish I had have taken the job. And it sounds weird, because at the time I came out and all I was thinking about was money. I wasn't thinking about the experience of working with somebody who had a number of years ahead of me. So in hindsight, I wish I had have taken that job, chilled out for 2 years, taken some holidays, had a bit of fun, and then opened up my practice. So sometimes I think experience has got to come before money, but there's some jobs out there that there's no experience you get. You're not going to get any experience either.
No, and that takes me. So I, when I was working for 2 days a week in the current job that I was talking about, I was putting the feelers out to supplement that, because I was like, well, I don't really want to do pathology at all. And so I was trying to supplement my aged care job with other podiatry work. So I got a position with a woman locally, won't mention her name, and got, had the meeting, did all that, excellent, got the contract sent through, and I thought, oh, okay then. But I took it based on what you said, the experience. I thought, okay,
yeah.
The pay is hideous, but I'll do it for a while. This will be a really good experience. I think I lasted till about lunchtime. I drove up there. Yeah, I did the day. I made my mind up at lunchtime and told her at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And she might micromanage Tyson. I thought,
So you're serious? You lasted half a day.
Half a day, and it had started. So it was. She wanted me there at 8:00 in the morning, and this clinic was about 50 minutes drive from my house. And I said, okay, that's fine. And she goes, but you don't start work till 8:30. And I said, well, then I'll get here at 8:30. And she goes, no, I want you here at 8. And I said, well, then what do we do between 8 and 8:30? And she goes, well, then that's when you load your car up with your instruments and we'll do handover and you can get ready for the day. And I thought, but I don't get paid till 8:30 and you're paying me minimum wage, but you want me here half an hour early. And I figured out, I thought, that's like 2 hours a week. This is, and I did the maths. Anyway, this particular day, I thought, oh, whatever, I'll appease her and I'll get there at 8 o'clock. Well, she rang me at 7:58 to see where I was. And I said, I'm around the corner. What's up? I was just ringing you to make sure you're going to be here at 8 because, you start at 8:30, but I want you here at 8. And I said, it's 2 minutes to 8 and you're ringing me. And I thought, oh. So, threw the phone down on the passenger seat and that set the tone for the day. And it was just a series of weird things, like I said, micromanagement, terrible pay. And I thought, is this what private practice is like?
Yeah, it's like to be. It's not. It's
no, I know. Yeah, exactly right. It's like I think you've probably said this prior, but it's a minority. Which
I do think that. I think there's a minority. There's some podiatry businesses or some podiatrists that own businesses that shouldn't employ people. Yeah, they're not very good at running the business yet. And that's why I did a video on this, and I said, when you're going for a job interview, you're also interviewing the employer. And one of the questions I reckon you should ask every employer is, out of curiosity, how many people have you employed before?
Exactly right.
And if they've gone, I know that you're my first one, then just expect that, okay, they're growing into the position of being an employer the same way that you're going to be an employee. So I think you have to take that into account, but there's some employers that they're just not very good and they probably shouldn't employ other people.
Yeah, look, and another trend I can recognise around here is that some of the practices where I'd love to work, they have staff retention and they've never got vacancies. Yeah. And then these other people who I've just referred to are constantly advertising for jobs, and the lifespan of the work is 3 months.
Yeah. And so they're not learning from. The problem is, like when I did the webinar, attract and retain, some people can attract podiatrists really easily, but they can't retain them. And other people find it hard to attract them, but once they attract them, they retain them really easily.
Yeah.
And I think if you're constantly losing staff members or you can't find anybody, then there's problems there that you need to address.
I think, that a mirror might need to be held up to them.
Yeah. So you resigned at lunchtime. You just went, I can't do this.
Like it was just a series of events that really ticked me off.
And
she was charging a fortune for the services. And that was another thing that I just thought, like she wasn't bulk billing. And I don't expect people to bulk bill. We said that offline prior. But she was very, very, very expensive. And there was a big gap there between, I thought, well, you're charging a premium. You're paying me squat.
Yeah.
And you disappear all day and go and walk your dog and things like that. So that was why I made up my mind. I thought, so that was what happened.
Did you work anywhere else other than that in private practice, or that was the only one?
She was private practice, and then I had done some subcontracting and things like that. But again, it's you've got to make it worth a while, and then it wasn't.
Yeah.
So any time I've deviated away, and that's my own experience, any time I've deviated away from this job I've got in the aged care, it hasn't been pleasant for me, which is why I sort of cradle this job I've got here, because it hasn't let me down. I get everything I ask for. I've got approachable management and things like that. So the stigma around the aged care kind of jobs, it's false.
Yeah, no, but that's good to hear. I think there's so many points about what you're talking about, and I don't want. I know some private practitioners might be listening to this saying, "Oh, geez, Kade's a little bit negative," and I'm going. I don't think you are.
No, and I'm not. And I don't want to burn bridges or bash private practice.
Yeah,
I'm just saying from my experience. And I think I've learned from that, and I know what I do and don't want to get into.
Yeah, but I know when I've spoken to different podiatrists and I say, how much are you offering for this job? And they'll tell me, and I'm going, it's not very appealing. And even though I know there's more to it than money, I said, but when you look at everything else that you're offering and where you are, I said, there's so many other jobs out there that are probably better. And then when you ask them why can't you pay them more? But then when you look at the fees they're charging, they don't charge enough. I think it's, so sometimes you've got to put your fees up. And that's where I think, I said to you off air, and I've said it on the podcast before, I think some podiatrists, one, should employ people, but I think they employ too early. I really
100%.
think they should be. I've said this story before. There's a dentist that I knew, that I did some work with. And when he opened his practice, he had this motto: I'll see anyone that's prepared to pay me $1. And that's what he did. Then when he got a capacity, they couldn't get any more patients in. He said, I'm now prepared to see anyone that will pay me $2. And they lost a few patients, but they filled it very quickly with everyone that would pay $2. Then he did the same thing. Okay, now I'll see anyone that's prepared to pay me $3. When you decide to make that decision, you went, now I need to employ somebody because I can afford to pay them really good money while I'm charging other people now $3.
Yeah.
And podiatrists, sometimes they don't charge enough. Then they bring somebody on. And when they bring somebody on, all of a sudden they take a massive drop in pay because they've just lost whatever it is that they're paying that person per week, per month, and it puts them under stress. And when you're under stress, you make stupid decisions.
Yeah, something you said, it resonated with me in a prior podcast where people put people on too early.
Yeah, way too early.
And it's happened to me pretty recently. And it's the person you put on wears the brunt of that. You know, like if you're going on not on a salary, you don't want gappy days. you don't want to be doing a split on a cheap sale. What's in it for you? So yeah, I wouldn't be putting stuff on until you're bursting at the seams.
Well, I think you get to capacity. Once you get to capacity, and there's a whole method of doing this. If I sat down with someone, it takes about 3 hours to go through this in fine detail. But as an overview, it's really, you get to capacity, you then put your fees up to a certain point. And a lot of people go, oh, but yeah, I might lose patients. That's exactly what you want. You want to lose patients. You don't want to keep attracting the people that are looking for the cheapest podiatrist. And so you keep moving your fees to a certain point, and then you employ somebody. You don't employ them just because you got busy.
Yeah, it's the same. So my parents recently have done a new kitchen, and they had a few quotes, and they went with one of the dearer quotes because they said, well, at the end of the day, the kitchen final product was, what's that going to be like for a person that does the cheapest? Do you hear where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
So, company A's dirt cheap. What's their kitchen going to be like?
Oh yeah, I've read this in a book. There was a book that said if you were going to get a particular service, whatever it was, and one person was charging 100, someone was charging 70, and someone was charging 25. All of a sudden, the person that's charging the least is off-putting because everybody knows it should be at least 70, for example. It should be at least 70.
Yeah.
Because that's what the average is. Some people go, I don't mind paying 100 because it's in a premium area or spot. But the person that's charging 25 who thinks, oh, I'm going to get all these patients because I'm really discounting. No, you're going to get really weird people.
Yeah.
Because anyone that's intelligent enough will notice that for you to be charging that, it's either your rent is really cheap, so therefore you're in a shitty area. You've got old equipment. And you look at these clinics and they actually stand out. You can see them.
And where's the ceiling with that? So if you're pitching to that demographic and that's their attitude, you've already got your ceiling with what you can charge or do for your time and your services because they're already, maxed out with low expectations.
Yeah, and then they get really busy and go, I want to employ someone. Okay, no, you really, really don't want to employ someone. What you want to do is start putting the money that you're going to pay someone back into your practice, update your equipment, paint the friggin' walls, replace the floor coverings, buy some new furniture, get a receptionist if you don't have one. Yeah, get a new chair. Just put the money back in your business. Make it look like a place where people want to work. So when you do have a new graduate or a new employee come along, they see your clinic and they go, this place looks really good.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, so I'm just concerned now that I've bashed private practice in this when that.
No, I don't. Any person that listens to this who gets upset will be the person who knows that maybe we're talking about them.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Because anyone that's got a decent clinic, and there's a lot of really good podiatry clinics out there. That's why I say to new graduates all the time, look around at the different jobs. And like I say, don't go for the money, go for the experience. Interview the employer. If they say that, there was an ad that was out the other day, said we have a balance between routine foot care, biomechanics, nail surgery, and there was something else, I can't remember what it was. If that's in their ad, then get them to put in writing, what is the percentage of routine care, biomechanics, nail surgery, and stuff that I'll be seeing? Because the way that they wrote it made it out as though this is going to be a 4-way split.
Yeah.
But I'll guarantee that if it's not, even if they said to you, oh, no, routine is going to be 70%, biomechanics is going to be 25%, at least you know what you're signing up for.
Exactly.
So dig into it and ask for details. And as an employer, I knew when I employed a podiatrist in my old clinic, our biomechanics to routine care was like 70-30, 70% biomechanics, 30% routine and everything else. And so therefore people knew exactly what they were signing up for.
Yeah, and I wish that was more prevalent. Because like, I know if I was to go and apply for a job like that, I think, oh, well, I'd be doing 1% biomechanics and 99% GTs.
Yeah.
And you, like I said, you can sift through it, and that's the impression you get.
So I just think anyone that's listening to this, if what has been said by Kade, so I'll just point the finger at you, it's all your fault.
Everyone else does.
I know, but I'm saying if you listen to this and it upsets you in some way, then just think, what is it about what we've said that's upset you? Or if you listen to this and you go, yeah, I agree with this 100%, just make sure that you keep maintaining your business at a certain level and become really attractive to employees and look after them.
Yeah.
Like,
and they'll stay.
Yeah, I get emails, every week or so of somebody saying, oh, I listened to the podcast and I learned this. So I listened to the podcast and I was going to leave podiatry, but I'm staying because, a certain guest said something that I really resonated with. So I think there's so many new graduates coming into our profession. We need to look after them.
Yeah, look, and I've come on here advocating for the aged care positions and stuff like that, but I reckon it's not.
Which I think is fine.
Yeah, and look, it's not for everyone. I remember day one, I was paired with a lovely lady who I still work with. I trained with her. She was a couple of years in front of me, and she said, before you open a packet of tools, this isn't for everyone. She loves it. She said, you might love it, you might hate it. It's not for everyone. And that's so true. I'm now 2 years in. I've seen people come and go. And what I find with this is people have stayed around for half a decade, 9 years, and climbing, or they leave after a couple of months because it's very black and white. It is for them, it's not for them. But the perception of it, I feel, is just really disappointing because, like I said, I've got a wonderful work-life balance. I work with a great team. The patient care is definitely there, and the remuneration is also there. So any of this stuff that I've just listed off that people don't think is there, it is.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic though, because I think it also works in reverse. When I said to you, I couldn't work in an aged care job, it just doesn't suit me. I also couldn't work in a 100% sports podiatry clinic.
Oh, me either.
Oh, they just drive me nuts. When I had my clinic here, and we did a lot of. I love weekend warriors, and I love biomechanics. I love helping patients that way. But we used to look after the Cairns Taipans and all the sporting teams. And I tell you, I just found elite sports people hard work, mentally draining, but there's going to be certain podiatrists who are really suited to that type of work, who will absolutely love it. But that also wasn't for me. So I was sort of that in between.
But I'm probably much like you. Like I went to uni with, like I said, I was old for my cohort. So I'm 30 today, but I went through uni in my mid-20s and I was old for my cohort. So I went through, and any of the guys, well, they were young and sporty, and they were, biomechanics. I'm like, oh, okay then. And they die. in a day of my shoes, and I'd die in a day of their shoes. So I think it's where you need to go and try things and formulate your own opinion. If person A said, "Oh, that's a horrible job, I wouldn't do it," well, go and try it and make your own mind up.
I think that's the thing. Yeah, because some people, like, I always thought that I wanted to be a sports podiatrist with just working with elite sports people until I did it. And then I realized that one of my patients was in one of the Tour de France teams. And so he used to come to me, and I used to make a pair of inserts for him every year for his cycling shoes. And he used to say, this is the only thing he ever takes as carry-on luggage on the plane. He says he can lose everything else, but not the orthotics that are made for him.
Yeah.
Even though, and I did this for him for over about an 8-year period. I was under so much stress whenever I was doing this for him, because this guy was at the elite of cyclists in the world in one of the main teams. And if I stuffed up, if I made a mistake, it was really stressful. And even though, like, he was a really super nice guy, I felt the stress. And if I had to do that every day with elite sports people, nah, I wouldn't be. I'd be dead. I actually, you lose your hair. I would have lost my hair earlier.
Well, that's, and I think like I said, I referenced another podcast with your guy where you said no one dies in podiatry. We can't kill anyone.
Yeah, even though some people now will hear that and go, "Oh, well, you don't realise that if someone has this high risk." Yes, people do die. We do understand that.
Did someone get back to you with that comment?
Yeah, but not. Yes, I got nailed on that comment a few times.
I agree with you. However, you might kill his career if you get his prescription wrong. So I understand the pressure that.
Yeah, it's more along the lines, and what happens too is once you start working with a few people, your reputation gets out there. So the next thing we get a phone call, and I think it was leading up to maybe the Athens Games or something like that, the Olympics, and all of a sudden you get a call from one of the South Pacific nations and said, "Can we bring our athletics team in to have all these evaluations done?" Yeah, why not? I never said no, but same thing. When they were in there with you and you were checking them out, you're just thinking, this is always high pressure. But I know there's other podiatrists that would just thrive on that sort of thing. Just love it. They could do that day in, day out, and would be calling me a big sook for complaining about it.
Yeah.
So like it's horses for courses. Everyone's different, but I think it's great that you found your part of podiatry that you really love. You realize that maybe private practice is not for you, but only because what you've been exposed to. So, but you could never say no, because
no, you never say never, and that's my thing.
There'd be a job there would be I guarantee there would be a private practice job out for you somewhere that you would just go, "Oh yeah, I like that."
And I know, and there's practices within my postcode where, they're great, and I know they're great. I know the people in them, and they're reputable. They've been around for years and years and years. And you think maybe down the track that could be an opportunity, but it's just this minority which can really sabotage things, and it dismantled my perception of the profession really early.
Well, it's good that you stayed in.
What was that?
It's good that you stayed in. It's good that you didn't let that put you off and leave.
Job I'm doing now, I found it. But if I just kept going from bad gig to bad gig to bad gig, I could have cracked it off and left.
Yeah, well, it's good that it's basically worked out. There was something I was going to say. I can't remember what it is now. I'll edit this part out of the podcast. Shit. It'll stay in the video. It was something in private practice. It was really profound too, but that's all right.
You don't reckon this is career suicide or anything for me?
No. I actually think what you're doing, like you said, you were exposed to some early positions you went for. You didn't like it. You eventually took one job, didn't like the micromanager, and I guarantee you right now, I remember what I was going to ask too. Right from the start, telling you to be there at 8 a.m. when you're starting at 8:30, just so you can get prepared, is a little bit rough. But I still think everyone should be at work before they start and get themselves ready for the day. But I know if I was looking for a job tomorrow, which I'm not, but if I was looking for work tomorrow, number one thing I'd be looking for, money would be part of it, but it wouldn't be the only thing. I'd be looking for the environment, the culture of the business, but also I'd be looking at, I want a job where when I walk in, the only time I'm getting back in my car is when I'm actually leaving for the day. I don't want to do nursing homes. I don't want to have to go and drive to your satellite clinics because you don't want to do it anymore. I'm not driving an hour here, 45 minutes that way. And then every day of the week, I've got to figure out, where am I actually going today? I just want to come to your practice that runs well with a good team, that I feel happy coming to work, like the patients, and I'll leave again. And I'm getting paid good money. I'm getting paid what I deserve.
You want to be paid what you're worth.
Yeah.
End of the day, what you're worth.
Because like I do know some podiatry clinics where I know the owner makes $300,000-$400,000 a year, and they've got people employed who make 75. So it's, and not that, they own the business. Yeah, they're the ones that have put the hard work in. They've done all the early work. So I do think the business owner does deserve the accolades. However, if the person that's working for you is doing a fantastic job and is bringing in a massive chunk of that, then I think you've got to pay them accordingly.
Well, yeah, it would be damaging if they were to walk away, wouldn't it?
Well, yeah, that's the part, that's the thing some business, but like I said, usually most of the problems are a minority. It's not the majority of the profession. When you're online and you see the trolls posting things, it's a minority. It's never the majority. So I think overall, majority of podiatrists are nice people. Majority of clinics are good clinics. But even the majority of graduates that come out are good graduates. But there's going to be a minority of them that, aren't very good either.
Yeah.
So it all works out in the end. So have you got any final words of wisdom before we wrap up?
My final words of wisdom would be just make up your own mind and your own opinions on the things that are out there. If I'd listened to the people around me about the position in aged care, I probably wouldn't have gone ahead with it. And had I not have gone ahead with it, I probably wouldn't have the house I'm sitting in today. Things like that. It gave me an opportunity to be on a good wage where I could please the bank to get a mortgage and things like that.
Yeah.
And you make up your own mind. As simple as that. If you're not sure, just jump in. And you might like it. And if you don't like it, you can always leave.
And little did you know that all roads would lead to the Podiatry Legends podcast.
Exactly right. Yeah. Tyson and all his greatness.
Oh, geez. Okay, so Kate, thank you very much for coming on the podcast. I look forward to talking again soon.
My pleasure, mate. Take care.
Okay.